This week, we have to talk about the Poshmark haul where they admitted that search is not their top priority.
Yes, so this was an interview with one of the co-founders of Poshmark,
Tracy Sun.
Tracy Sun, on a YouTube podcast called Field Notes with Connie, I believe.
Yep.
So basically, they're just going over their vision of Poshmark and what they see for the future and how they're going to be directing their business model.
Yes, so we are going to link this podcast interview below. It's super long, but I do think it is interesting because it does give a good timeline of where Poshmark kind of started out, what kind of seeded the idea for Poshmark, and then how they built it out over time. But we wanted to kind of highlight two main things that they covered that I think is really important to the community as a whole, and it's really important for us to understand the differences between how Poshmark sees themselves versus how we as sellers interact with their platform and how we see the features and things that they are implementing. So I think we want to start off with discovery.
So they very much focused on discovery in the interview. So that was the primary bulk of most of the interview. And they are talking about discovery in terms of almost browsing in a store rather than searching for a targeted item shopping. It's just a different dynamic.
Yes, so to define discovery in terms of Poshmark, what they mean by this is how a shopper is going to engage with their platform and how they're actually shopping. So discovery to them means things like searching through the following page for items you may be interested in, getting suggested listings based on brands or things you may have searched in the past, and other ways in which they push this information to you, maybe through an email, maybe through push notifications, all these different ways where they push information to you that you are discovering that you're not actively searching for. And They really emphasize that this is the bulk of their shopping, and they have metrics to show that people are being converted in meaningful ways through discovery versus search, which you actually think has credence.
I do think that they probably have some information or data that shows that, because it's a long-standing tradition in just in-person retail, especially for big retailers like Target, Walmart, where they're very intentional about where they put items in the store. They will even mix things up so that you're not able to just pick what you want specifically, so that you have to spend more time in the store, because their thought process and by extension Poshmark, their thought process combined is that the more time you're there, the more chances you have to buy something. So if you're in the store, you haven't spent your last dollar. As soon as you leave, you're done spending money.
Yeah. Now that's a little bit confusing for me. I'm not a browsing shopper at all. But my husband is, so I definitely know that there is absolutely value in browsing. But we wanted to highlight a disconnect here that we kind of saw throughout this interview that I think is really important to highlight, is that because they prioritize discovery over search, I think that they have misunderstood how valuable search is in feeding discovery. So to use his example of a store like Target or IKEA, if you are going into said store and you are looking for a flat screen TV, for example, a store is going to present that flat screen TV to you at the total back of the store in the electronics section. So it's going to be a section that there might be a sign for, there might be categories like laid out in the store, but there's going to be a specified section where you can find this flat screen TV, and it's going to be at the back of the store where you have to walk past a bunch of like smaller ticket items that you might want to pick up, and you have to go to the register where there's also going to be, candy and things like that you may also want to pick up. What they're not going to do is put that flat screen TV along with cardigan sweaters in a completely unorganized way where you could never locate it if you wanted to.
It's almost like Poshmark, instead of having it out on the sales floor, they've had it on the back of the truck where you have to talk to the employee and work out some kind of under the table deal to actually get to the item. It's almost like it's not even there.
Yes. So what we're trying to say here is discovery becomes super valuable when the shopper is happy and wants to continue to engage with the platform. So if I found my flat screen TV that I'm looking for and I'm super happy about my really cool purchase that I got, I may be more likely to pick up a pack of M&Ms on my way out because I'm feeling really good and I'm feeling good about purchasing. What's not going to happen is that I went into that store and I looked for a flat screen TV and it was mixed in with cardigan sweaters, so I never even found it in the first place. I'm not going to buy anything along the way because now I'm annoyed and I'm turned off from the experience, and I'm likely not going to go back to that store. And that is what Poshmark is doing to its shoppers.
We've actually just had a in-person interaction with this. We went to a store for a very specific item that they did not have, even though it was posted on their website, And we left without buying anything. We turned right around and we left without a second thought.
Right. So I definitely think that while I can totally understand the discovery emphasis on Poshmark's end, and I do understand that it definitely converts shoppers, I think that there is a little bit of confusion about the fact that search is just as important, if not more important, than discovery, and it needs to be built out in order for discovery to be as valuable as they want it to be.
I think the disconnect is it's not one or the other. It's not a zero-sum game where you either have to shop one way or the other. As an online platform, you want to connect with all of the shoppers, how they are shopping, and the search is an integral part of that for everyone, including the browser. Yeah. Because I go to the internet because I have something specific in mind, because it's convenient.
Right.
And I can just click, buy the thing I want, and then I am then at that point more suggestible to other purchases, but not before I've found my item.
Right. I think as a seller, there's another part of this that I think is really important for Poshmark to understand, and they didn't really speak to this, so I'm not sure that they do, but it's if discovery is going to be the main mechanism for how buyers find their items, sellers need to understand how they can be part of that, how they can be included in said discovery. So we need to really understand what metrics they are using or what pieces of the listing that they are using to pull our items into this discovery process to be able to use it effectively. An example I can think of is they have trend rooms, and we've talked about this on our channel before, and your items can get selected into these trend rooms where people can kind of search through and find items based on a trend that they might be interested in. And they do give you item specifics on how to get your item into the room, but it's super clunky and it's not a streamlined way to do it. They don't have a standardized set of maybe style tags that are consistently going to be in a trend room that you know your items can be seen in. These trends are constantly changing. The tags that you need to get into them are constantly changing. And in order to really effectively use this, a seller would have to watch day by day and update their listings based on the trends in order to be in the room, which is just very clunky and very time consuming for a seller.
It's not an efficient way. I think we are, as a reselling community, very tied into the old conventional SEO optimized way of shopping, which has worked on Poshmark to the point where they changed things. And we've had a lot of time to familiarize ourselves with that process. We need some help from Poshmark to show us or tell us what they're valuing so that we can get our items into the computer screens and phones of the people that are going to buy.
Right. So a takeaway from this that I had that I just kind of want to make sure we hammer in before we move on to the next topic is that if Poshmark, you want discovery to be the main tool that buyers use, please, please, please educate your sellers on how to effectively use it and let us know what is the most important thing for us to be including in our descriptions, in our photographs, in all of that type of thing to get to our buyers. Because if we don't know how to do that, I know that you're still making sales because you're able to prioritize what goes where, but the sellers are going to get discouraged and they're going to end up going to a platform that they can understand and actually use the metrics to increase their sales. So this kind of leads into our next topic of how Poshmark is really misunderstanding how people are using the app from our perspective. And in this case, Poshmark really is measuring metrics of engagement as a way to show that sellers, buyers alike are enjoying the community aspect of Poshmark. They talked about a bunch of different ways in which this is showing through their metrics.
And I think this is honestly really the story of Poshmark because they have done this since the start of Poshmark itself. They have, for the primary example is sharing. So they look at it going, people are sharing all these items. They're sharing their own items. They're sharing other people's items. They're doing all of these things. They're active and on the platform. They have a sticky cohort. They say that all the time. Looking at you, Doge. Sticky cohort means that people have to be on the platform and they always come back. That's not what you think it means, Posh. They are coming back and they're doing those things because there is no choice.
Yes. So as we all know, if you are in the seller community, you know, we all believe that sharing your item has two effects. One, it gets your item to the top of the pile so the buyers can see them. But two, it gives you a boost in the algorithm, whether you're sharing someone else's listing or you're sharing your own. There is an algorithm boost associated with sharing. Now, we don't know what the actual algorithm says. It's big and nebulous, but we have seen effects that say that it's good to do. So we come back to do that. A lot of us do not share listings because we are interested in the listings we're sharing. We share it for our own self-interest. There is going to be exceptions to that. I'm sure that some of you watching actually shop this way. But for most of us, we do it because we have to. Now, a similar thing can be said for many of the other tools, and one that they specifically spoke about in this interview was Posh Shows. Now, I would love you guys to correct me if I am mistaken on this because I don't use Posh Shows. I can only use my own experience and the people I've spoken to. However, what they said in this interview was one of the metrics they have seen from Posh Shows is that people are really loving the community aspect of being able to sell other people's items in their shows. And they said that they have seen people are kind of creating a community around taking someone's listing from their closet and selling it into their own Posh show. Now, I have personal experience with this where I have had my items sold in a Posh show, and I did this for my own self-interest. The reason I did this is because there is a rumor out in the community that we have anecdotally proven to be true, that if you sell an item via a Posh show, whether you're the host or whether it's somebody else selling your own item, you will get a boost in the algorithm after you do that. Now, we only have anecdotal evidence, but that is a rumor in the community. So many people heard this rumor and they went out and wanted to have somebody sell their item in a Posh show to see if they got a boost into the algorithm.
Yeah, the other part of it is it's basically extortion. How you explained it to me, it's not genuine engagement, it's forced engagement, which is the whole metric that Poshmark doesn't have a way to sift through what is genuine versus what is just required under their rules.
Yeah. And why he's saying that is, from what I've understood from the seller's perspective, people are doing this type of show for basically to boost their show in the rankings of Poshmark. So if you have more people in your show, more people are likely to show up to the show to purchase your items. How do you get more people into your show? You ask them to sell their own listing. You make them wait in your show for their listing to be sold so that they can put the price point in and all that type of thing. And you'll have a bunch of sellers sitting in your show waiting for their listings to be sold, and it'll look like there's lots of shoppers in your show. Now, maybe this isn't true across the board, but this is definitely something that is happening, and Poshmark is seeing that and saying, look, engagement is created, community is created.
All of these people are here. They are very much enjoying this whole experience, not I'm here because you're forcing me to be. I'm here under protest, basically. Yeah.
I sat in a Posh show for 2 hours waiting for my item to be sold. Now, I have stopped doing this because the time sink was just too much and the value add was just not high enough for me. But I know people that do it all the time. They have it in the background of listing and things like that to try and get that boost in the algorithm. And they're not doing it because they love the community. They're doing it because they feel like they have to. Now, there is another instance that they've tracked a very similar thing that they talked about in this interview, which was men's shopping. And they stated in the interview that they really believed when they started this out that it's possible men won't like to shop via discovery process, and Poshmark won't be good for them because they're discovery focused, as we said at the start of this. And they looked at their metrics and they found out actually men are spending more money and they're spending it quicker than female shoppers, which means men like discovery. And I just don't think that correlation actually works.
I think they are spending money faster so that they can avoid it because they're finding something that is close enough to what I was looking for and saying, you know what? I give up. I don't care. That's fine. I'll wear whatever is not offensive to wear, basically. So, yeah, it's a pair of sneakers. It's fine.
And it's another situation where you have a captive audience. Men's shoppers, at least at the time that it was launched, and it has changed over time, but as the time it was launched, had very few options on how they could purchase secondhand clothing online. And Poshmark was one of those places they could do that. So they went to Poshmark to do that, and they shopped there, they purchased there because there wasn't anywhere else to go.
If I know as a man, if I had a better choice to shop than Poshmark for clothing secondhand, I would not use Poshmark at all. I would not even look at the app. I would probably not even have it on my phone.
I mean, I would have to agree. And for the male viewers here that are watching this and that do use Poshmark in some capacity, I'd be really interested to know from you what you think about the community engagement side of Poshmark, whether it comes to liking items, sharing items, or the discovery process. Do you enjoy that as a shopper? And if an app came out that was much more focused on clothing, so we're not talking about just eBay, but a clothing focused app that didn't have all of that, would you be more interested in that? The first one that comes to mind for me would be Grailed, but that is more vintage focused, but like Poshmark for men, where you're not looking at discovery. Would you be more interested in that?
With just a targeted search where I can find exactly what I want.
Because that sounds like what I want.
Yeah, if I could get to there in as few clicks as possible, whether it 1, 2, 3, under 5 clicks, and it's exactly what I want, that's where I would go. That's where I would shop personally online. I will browse in the store, but I'm not going to browse on the computer.
Yeah. So this interview really kind of touched on a lot of points that we've been trying to make time and time again on this channel of the disconnect between Poshmark, the business, and Poshmark, the sellers. And I think that one really interesting opportunity that Poshmark has is what they called trend councils that they have already currently operating for their business model, where essentially they said Gen Z employees and then other employees come together and say, hey, this is what the market wants. This is what's working. This is what's not working. Let's all brainstorm together to figure out what we should do next. And I think that they need to expand these trend councils to include sellers of all different kinds. Resellers, enterprise sellers, individuals who just really enjoy Poshmark, and shoppers. I think that they really need to have a larger trend council to kind of inform them on the things that are happening on the ground that they might not be able to see. Because from this interview, I got the vibe that this isn't malicious on Poshmark's part. We love to crap on them, but it's not malicious.
It's a lack of understanding. It's very much they're seeing it how they want to see it versus how we in the community see it, because we're looking at it from the opposite ends of things. To build on they need to expand the tools to get more feedback from the community so this does not happen. They do have the App Me Anything at PoshFest. They need to make that more accessible for people that are not at PoshFest. If they could open that up and have pop-up events where they have an employee sit down all around the world. They have the Posh and Sips.
A Posh Zoom call.
Just anything where they can take feedback, not just from the devotees that are going to PoshFest, but from everyone in the community. That would be a way to expand and make the platform better. Poshmark, we have a list. We have several lists, actually, of things that we very much would like you to do or not do on the platform.
Yeah, and I think as a community, we can do better about giving them a little bit of slack as they try and work out kinks for things, because I definitely, as watching this interview, started realizing that they are a small business that is just trying to make things work just like we are, and they're going through the iterations and growing pains that we do in our business as well, and we have to give them some slack for that. But in order for us to be able to do that, we need to feel heard, and we need to feel like our subset of the community is represented, and I just don't see that in a lot of the interviews, a lot of the quarterly earnings calls. We just haven't seen our community represented, and I just think that it would be helpful for everyone if we were.
I think the biggest and most obvious thing that we have talked about a lot recently that shows this more than probably anything else that we've talked about so far is the promoted listings. The promoted listings, they're seeing so many people trying to opt into the beta. They're going, see, people want the promoted. It's so popular. Everyone is fighting each other to have promoted listings. They're not looking at it going, I'm doing this because I'm scared for my business. I am getting to the point where I am thinking that everyone else is going to be doing promoted listings, and then I will never make another sale on Poshmark. And that's the mentality that most people that are opting in have, versus it's actually a positive for Poshmark.
Yes, and I myself am the same way. We did actually get accepted into the beta program today, so make sure you subscribe and have those notifications on, because we will absolutely have a video on whether or not we think that they are useful to use. But for sure, the reason that I signed up is 1, curiosity, but 2, because I am terrified that if I don't do this, I will be buried. And that is not me saying I enjoy a new feature you've released. It's me saying I'm going to do malicious compliance because I don't want to be obsolete on the platform. So it's definitely time for Poshmark to take that stock and realize, hey, maybe our sellers are doing this because they have to and not because they want to. And what can we do to kind of make sure that they feel included and that they feel heard and that they feel like what they are doing is valuable and is helping the community, versus that you have to do it, otherwise you're done and you're cut off from the community as a whole.
Yeah.
So I definitely suggest checking out the full interview. It does give you a really interesting picture of Poshmark, and I think it's something that the community hasn't really spoken about. But Poshmark, I am begging you, listen to our feedback. We want you to succeed. We love you, and we have done so well on your platform in the past, and we want to get back to that point. And if you want to actually find out more information about what we'd like to see from you guys, there is an open letter right here that you can click on the screen to give you all of that information.